Hello, apostate congregation. Welcome to another edition of the Mormon Atheist. So I want to start the video out today with talking about just some recent events and current events that have taken place. So recently, there's been some other videos done about the Mormon Atheist, and I almost feel like I need to do a disclaimer for all of my videos from here on out. So I really want to emphasize that none of the things that are mentioned in my videos are my opinions. None of them, not a single one of them. So everything in my videos are from books. They're from books, articles, magazines, newspapers, things of that sort, of the day, of the time, in the 1800s. Nothing that the Mormon Atheist does is past 1900. There is no references. There are no books. There's literally zero information that I give to you guys that is past 1900. My area of interest is Joseph Smith. So everything from the 1700s, the mid to late 1700s, the Freemasonry aspects, all the way to 1844 when Joseph Smith dies. Okay. And then there's all the way up until about 1889, I think, is the H.H. Bancroft's book, I believe, is in 1889, 1887, 89, something like that. Off the top of my head, I don't remember. But anyways, so H.H. Bancroft is a legit historian of the day. William Dixon is a legit historian of the day. These are newspaper articles. These are magazines of legit magazines of the day, right? The one I'm going to talk to you about today was written in 1859. Okay, so these are not my opinions. Okay, so when these other podcasters, when they say the Mormon Atheist claims, the Mormon Atheist, his opinions, well, first of all, there's one in particular that recently did a video, and I actually had a conversation with this guy about how you really need to understand the Mormon Atheist. You have to read these books. If you don't read these books, you will never, ever understand where the Mormon Atheist is even coming from. So it's imperative that you read these books and you know what you are talking about, because you clearly do not know what you're talking about if you've never read these books, right? And if you say that I claim, or the Mormon Atheist claims, these are not my opinions. These are what these interviewers are talking about. They're talking directly to Brigham Young, and they're writing it in their book. So those are Brigham Young's words. Today, these are Martin Harris's words. These are not my opinions. These are their words written down. So when you disagree with me, you're literally disagreeing with Brigham Young. You're disagreeing with Martin Harris. You're disagreeing with the author of whatever book wrote whatever article or whatever, right? You're not, there's nothing to disagree with me about, right? So you have to read this stuff. I do not use church sources in any form or fashion. Okay, and is what a church source is anything that is promoted by the church, anything that a church member has written, anything that is produced by the church or produced by church members, past, present, or future. It doesn't matter, right? I do not use church sources. So when you recite Emma Smith, okay, and you say, well, Emma Smith's not a church source. Bro, Emma Smith is the mother of the founder of the religion. Are you seriously going to tell me that that is not a church source? come on, let's be logical here, right? The Joseph Smith papers, when you say that you're an ex-Mormon and you go back to the Joseph Smith papers, or you have BYU printed all over all of your stuff, you're not an ex-Mormon, okay? And I actually have other videos where I talk about beware of Mormons that are posing as ex-Mormons, because there's a lot of them out there. There's a lot of them out there. This is a cult. Cults are going to cult, right? That's what they do, is they cult. So that's my disclaimer. These are not my opinions, first and foremost. None of these have ever been my opinion. They're books. They are books. And if you cannot wrap your brain around these books that are not church sources, then I don't know, because the people on my channel that come to my channel, they're actively looking for the church lied to them, right? The church lied to me. I was born and raised a Mormon. So why would I use church sources to prove or disprove this thing, right? I want to go outside. I want to see what other people are writing. I want to see what is the town talking about? What are the neighbors talking about? This kind of stuff, right? That's what I want to know. I want to know what other people think. What are they talking about? That's what the Mormon Atheist channel is all about. I do not use church sources in any form or fashion. The Joseph Smith papers, throw them out the window. I know about the Joseph Smith papers. I've read the Joseph Smith papers. All they are doing is kind of sort of validating all the weird stuff, right? Oh, Joseph Smith was this weird guy, right? Well, okay, what does that mean? So let's go to outside sources and let's find out how weird Joseph Smith is. Let's go to the Freemasonry. Let's go to the Salmonic magic, right? I talk about all of this stuff in all of my videos, and you have to put this stuff into context, right? And my videos are in a level of progression because I'm learning too. I'm learning too, just like you are. I didn't know this stuff before I read it. I was just following the names, and I watched another podcast and I thought, that's interesting. Let me look it up. And so I looked it up and I was like, oh my God, what is this? And so then I started following the names of a lot of these books and articles. They refer to other authors and other books and other articles. So I went and I looked those up, right? I did my homework and I was like, oh, geez, this shit is amazing. I mean, what do I really know about Mormonism, right? The only thing I know about Mormonism is what the church has told me, what I have been indoctrinated into believing. That's what I know about the church. I was born and raised in the church. My family is still very much active and involved in the church. So the church is very much a part of my life. So I know what these stories are, right? I grew up with these stories. I lived these stories on family home evening. Every Monday night, we would have family home evening and we would learn these stories. Okay, so I know the stories. So you meatball podcasters, when you go out there and you say the Mormon atheist claims this and claims that, and he's so ridiculously wrong. Am I wrong? Or are you the one that's wrong? Okay, so when I watched that particular video, it actually made me laugh. I actually laughed because I had a conversation with this guy. And I said, hey, man, you should really read this stuff before you go on your podcast and start. His thing was, he's going to expose me. So this is an ex-Mormon podcast, and he's going to expose me. He's going to expose me. Okay. I said, expose away, my man, because it's so utterly ridiculous to me that ex-Mormons, you call yourself an ex-Mormon, but then you're going to expose another ex-Mormon, right? It's so dumb. you're so dumb, man. And like, so that's why I say these people are not ex-Mormons when they are going to expose another ex-Mormon. Well, what are you exposing? You're exposing somebody else's take on more, because 100% my podcast, you will never hear Mormon. If you want to hear like the regurgitated bullshit that all the other Mormon podcasts, literally all the other ex-Mormon podcasts talk about, okay, your faith crisis and your feelings, and I ain't got time for that, apostate congregation. I'm sorry if you had a faith crisis. I had one too. Okay, it's what you do when you stop believing in whatever religion you're believing in. You start questioning things. And to me, in my mind, that's a good thing, because you start questioning. There is no freedom other than questions. You have to question everything. Question, question, question. So in my mind, your faith crisis is actually a good thing, because now your red flags are up and you're thinking to yourself, what am I being told? What is this? Head in a hat? What is this? Golden plates? What is this? He ran through a field with these 200-pound plates? Okay, well, if you read these books that I talk about, and, you know, when you throw William Morgan into this equation, right? And that was another thing, this guy, I know the craft. Get out of town, bro. You don't even know what you're talking about. You have no idea what you're talking about. And so when you read these books and William Morgan pops up in all these different books and all these different places, and the similarities to William Morgan and Joseph Smith are so incredibly similar, you have to wonder, okay, these are not my opinions. These are what the books say, okay? It's what the texts say. It's not my opinions. And so when you start adding this stuff together and you start realizing that William Morgan had a 116-page book that went missing. William Morgan was married to a woman named Lucinda Pendleton that just coincidentally became one of Joseph Smith's wives. William Morgan this, William Morgan that. He had a printing press burned down. He got arrested for the same amount of money that Joseph Smith got arrested for. So there's all these coincidental things that are taking place, and it happens time and time and time again. It's not just a one-off, right? If it was just a one-off, I wouldn't even mention it, because I understand this is YouTube, and I understand that I'm going to get roasted if I'm wrong, okay? Well, when you read these books, these are books. I want to reiterate that. If you did not hear that the first 100 times and the first 92 videos that I have, these are books. These are not my opinions. Okay, you understand? Okay, so for now on, apostate congregation, maybe every video I do now, I have to write or say this disclaimer for these knucklehead ex-Mormon podcasters that think they're going to expose the Mormon atheist. I don't even know what to say about it, because it's so ridiculous. If you're going to expose the Mormon atheist, I highly recommend you read some of these books. That way you know what exactly you're exposing, because when you say that I don't use church sources, or I don't use this story in the Joseph Smith papers, or I don't use Emma Smith, you're right. You're 100% right. I don't use that stuff. I do not use church sources. Emma Smith, I have so many people tell me that Emma Smith is not a church source. Listen to what I'm saying to you. Emma Smith is the supposed mother, and I say supposed for a reason, because it's in the books, okay? The supposed mother of the founder of the church. And you're going to tell me that that is not a church source? Do you think that woman is going to say anything that's really damning to like expose the the church. I mean, these guys are all making incredible amounts of money off of this thing, even in that day. And these books say that. They tell you how much money Brigham Young had in 18 whatever, right? You have to read the books, or you will never understand where the Mormon atheist is coming from. Never, never. You have no chance. And so if you're going to try to debunk the Mormon atheist or expose the Mormon atheist, I highly recommend you watch my videos. They're done in a progressive fashion, right? Number one video is, I don't really know what I'm talking about. Number two video is, okay, I kind of know a little more. Number three is, okay, I kind of have a better idea. Number four is, okay, well, hey, check out this book. Number five is, hey, check this book out, and we go into further detail. Number six, and so on, right? So you can't just watch one video and say, oh, that guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Well, you're right, because I'm learning just like you are, and I'm presenting to you what it is that I'm learning. So now if I have to take 10 years and never make a video and then come back and say, hey, check this out, I read 800 books and this is what no, man. Okay. As of this moment today, I've probably read at least 200 books on this stuff that have nothing at all to do with Mormonism whatsoever. But they're talking about the Church of Christ. They're talking about Joseph Smith. They called him Joe Smith. They're talking about Martin Harris. They're talking about these people, but they're not Mormons. And so, yes, I don't use Mormon sources. I do not use church sources at all. So please, the congregation knows, the apostate congregation is very well aware of what the Mormon atheist is. It's to all the people that have never seen the Mormon atheist or don't know anything about the Mormon atheist. And you people are watching these videos for the first time. You have to read these books. You have to catch up. Some of these articles, like Fraser Magazine, is like 10 pages long. This article that I'm going to talk about today, I think, is like 14 pages long. It's an article in a magazine. Okay. So this stuff is out there, and I tell you where you can get it, where you can find it, who wrote it, what year it was written in, where I got it from, other sources you can get them from. So it's not a secret. There's no secret. There's no smoke and mirrors with the Mormon atheist, right? And I'm not monetized, and I will never be monetized because the muse won't allow it, right? The muse takes precedence over everything, right? You can't do that. I will never beg you for money, super chats, all that kind of garbage, right? Because I can't do it. This information is free, right? It's free information and it's all out there. And so these other podcasts that, just today there was a podcast about one of the dudes. I don't even watch these ex-Mormon podcasts because they're so utterly ridiculous, and they all talk about the same exact thing, every one of them. And they're just regurgitating the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over. I get sick of it. I can't hear it no more. And then at the end, they all ask you for money. Please help us, donate. Okay, these people are all retired lawyers and psychiatrists, and then without your donations, we could never do this. You know what, man? I'm a working class guy, and I will never monetize this channel, ever. I will never ask you for super chats. I will never ask you for donations, none of that stuff, because it takes me 1 hour to do this video. Yeah, there's some time that goes into the prep stuff, but I'm interested in it anyways. I'm interested in Americana history, the 13 colonies, the Freemasonry, all that kind of stuff. I'm interested anyway. So I read these books, and it just so happens that Mormonism pops its ugly little head up all over the place in these Masonic books. And the anti-Masons, just so you are all aware, fun fact, the anti-Masons is an actual political party. It was not like an anti-Masonic movement. It's a freaking political party. And you can Google that. And you can thank the Mormon atheists for that. And Solomon Southwick, one of the authors that I recite multiple times in just about every one of my videos, is more or less the creator and founder of the anti-Masonic movement, which later became the Whig Party, which later became what we call the Republican Party. So yeah, fun fact. Okay, that is fact. And you can look that up and you can search that out, the anti-Masonic movement. And you can discover for yourselves what exactly that means, okay? So I don't want to hear you coming on and saying you're going to expose and you are very well aware of the craft. Well, you don't even know what the craft is, my man. You don't even know what it is. You're calling the craft, and it's a freaking political party, dude. So yeah, there you go with that. So good luck on, debunking that. Okay, so apostate congregation, I am 21 minutes into this video and I have not even said welcome. Welcome to the channel. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. The Mormon atheist talks about Freemasonry, the craft, which is Solomonic magic, not Freemasonry. Okay, the craft is not Freemasonry. The craft is the magic of Solomon. That is what the craft is. And if you look it up, you can literally Google anything that I talk about on any of my videos, and you will see for yourself. So when you Meatball ex-Mormon podcasts are going to expose the Mormon atheists, I really highly advise that you Google the stuff before you talk. Okay, because you kind of look silly, right? In the apostate congregation, and anybody that knows anything about this stuff, you look really silly. Okay, so like and subscribe to the channel. Today we are going to talk about a magazine that it's called Tiffany's Monthly Magazine. Okay, this particular article is an interview it's between Joel Tiffany and Martin Harris. So in Mormonism, okay, when you hear about Joel Tiffany, the only thing that you will ever hear about Joel Tiffany is about how when Martin Harris has a brief conversation with Joel Tiffany about the character page, the character page. And that's it. That's literally it. He has a brief conversation about the character page, and that's it. There's nothing else really said about Joel Tiffany. So I want to know who Joel Tiffany is. Why would the Mormon story even mention this guy? Why is he even part of anything Mormonism at all, right? So one thing about Joel Tiffany was he was never an occultist. Later through the years, they talk about how Joel Tiffany was an occultist. He was not an occultist. He was interested in the occult, and his monthly magazine, and he had several books on the occult, but he was never a member, or he never practiced the occult. He was interested in it, and so he would write about it, but he was never in the occult. He was never an occultist, none of this kind of stuff, right? So, and there's actually several ex-Mormon videos and podcasts and all kinds of stuff that say he wasn't in the occult. Well, he was never in the occult, but his books, you can Google Joel Tiffany, and his books that he wrote were on the occult. They were about the occult. You understand what I'm saying to you? Okay, so this particular article, the name of the article has had several name changes over the years, right? And this is all done by the church. So the original name, the original title of this magazine is called Mormonism, simply Mormonism. It later became Interview with Joel Tiffany, and then Martin Harris's interview with Joel Tiffany, and then from there it's taken on a whole bunch of different names, and the church is more or less the facilitator of changing all these names. So the name is, and this particular one is volume number 5. Okay, it's a 3-part series. So I'm going to do 3 separate episodes on each. I'm going to do 1 episode on each part. So the first part of this, he starts out kind of soft. He throws in some, real hard balls here and there. But for the most part, it's kind of a softer element, right? And then the second video that I do in the coming days is going to be even a little more hard hitting. And then the third video is like hitting the ball out of the park, home run. Just it's hard. Okay, so the name of the magazine is called, or the name of the article in the magazine, Tiffany's Monthly, Volume 5, is called Mormonism. Okay, I want to express the fact that I do not use church sources. Okay, I think I just beat that dead horse, right? Everything that I do is pre-1900. I don't do anything after 1900 whatsoever. I'm not interested in it because Mormonism takes on a very, very different animal in the 1900s, right? So I want to be very clear and specific and precise. I do not use church sources, especially anything after 1900. I don't even use sources that are, I want to be as close to Joseph Smith as I can. I want to stay within that 1844, 1823, 1826 range, right? That's my area of interest, right? Is that time frame. So I'm reading books and articles and magazines that are written in that time frame. Okay, this one here is written in 1859. Okay, so that's very important. You really need to understand that. Okay, so let's get into what the magazine is actually even saying, right? So again, he's talking to Martin Harris. This entire thing is a conversation with Martin Harris. He's sitting down in a room speaking. He's interviewing Martin Harris, right? And it starts out, and I'm going to actually read directly out of the article. Okay, so if you want to expose me, like the guy said, you have to read this stuff. You have to read this stuff. Okay, so it starts out, it says Mormonism, as known as its present existence under the teachings of Brigham Young and his co-laborers, is distinguished for its general immoralities, vices, and crimes. Okay, this is an 1859 apostates. Like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Okay, he goes on, right? And he goes on and it says, it seems to be the effort of revising the customs, the laws, and practices which prevailed in the days of the Jews and in the days of the patriarchs. Okay, and he's kind of going through explaining what Mormonism even is, right? At first, right? So he's kind of giving you the background here now, right? Okay, I'm reading directly from the article, guys. Again, these are not my opinions. These are not my opinions. Okay, so he goes on. The saints of the old, under the teachings of Moses, he's talking about the Bible, guys, had no more respect for humanity, truth, justice, purity, and holiness than Brigham Young or any of his followers. Okay, that's kind of a scathing thing, right? He's talking about the biblical patriarchs, and he's telling you where Mormonism gets their what do you want to call it? Where Mormonism gets their, like, the allowance for them to do the justification to do what they're doing, right? Is they're saying, well, the patriarchs did it, so why can't we do it, right? Okay. So then Mormonism, being so compatible with the lustful inclinations of man, can accomplish much with a poor and feeble philosophy, No man or woman can be made a Mormon through the exercises of their intellectual and moral faculties. They must first become the disciples and dupes of religious authority. Okay, that's pretty intense, right? So they have to relinquish their faculties, is what this guy's saying, right? Their intellectual faculties. So when you read this article, I'm kind of paraphrasing through this, right? But when you read this, it goes into very, like, it's so much more profound, right? Okay. So this is where Martin Harris comes into play, okay? So about this time, we're about on the third or fourth page of the article. Martin Harris comes in and says, he's directly talking to Harris, right? He says, so Joel Tiffany says, this past winter, we spoke to Harris, the real father of Mormonism. Mr. Harris has conversed with us many times on the subject, giving us the history of its developments and desires us to write it from his own lips. Okay, from Martin Harris's own lips. That's very important when you're trying to expose the Mormon atheist, right? These are not my opinions. Harris says, let's see. So Harris says he does not sympathize with Brigham Young and the Salt Lake Church. He considers them apostates from the true faith and as being under the influence of the devil. Apostates, this is Martin Harris saying this, right? Harris says the pretend church of the Latter-day Saints are in reality Latter-day devils. That's great. I love that line. They're Latter-day devils. Okay, so then and that him and a few others are the only genuine Mormons left. Tiffany ends by saying, we believe it to be a romance. He's talking about the Book of Mormon, right? We believe it to be a romance of low order, destitute of philosophical, moral, and literary merit. Okay, now one thing I wanted to go back and say is you can go through the Bible and you can literally find you can look up Seventh-day Adventists, you can look up the Latter-day Saints, you can look this stuff up in the Bible, and you can see actually where this stuff comes from in the Bible as it's being said. You can actually Google it. Just Google it. It'll give you the passage in the book and all that kind of stuff, right? And so none of this is like the Mormons didn't do this on their own. They didn't come up with this stuff on their own, right? You have to take into consideration the revival that was happening at the time, right? What was happening, the religious revival, all that kind of stuff. This is where the Seventh-day Adventists, the Baptists, all of these other religions, this is where they all come from. And there's verses in the Bible that justify what they're talking about, right? I mean, if you think about it, right? Jesus never comes to the Americas in the Bible, right? He goes to Spain, he goes to Africa, but he never comes to America, right? So there's this filling the gaps, right? They're filling the gaps, right? And so that's what Mormonism is. It's another one of these gap fillers, just like the Seventh-day Adventists are, the Jehovah's Witness, same thing. They're all filling these gaps, right? And so I feel like I lost a page here. I don't know. But anyway, so they're filling these gaps, right? And so there's just so many of these things that when you start looking at this stuff, and you realize like what exactly is happening here and what's going on, right? And I really feel like I lost a page, but I don't know. I'll get it on the next episode. So there's so next time we go through, so this article, all of these articles are written in 1859. So then there's it's May, June, and then August, right? So the next episode that we do is going to get, it's really hard hitting. It's it talks about how Martin Harris is picking his teeth, and this is this is legit in the article. He's talking about how he's picking his teeth and he drops the pin on the floor, and Joseph Smith, through his seer stones, is able to find the pin. So this becomes a miraculous thing for Martin Harris, right? And so Martin Harris is this, the best way to describe Martin Harris is he's a mystic. He's a complete mystic. And so like as this article unfolds, it actually says in the article, every time Martin Harris would speak, he would say, "Saith the Lord," and it came to pass, these kinds of things, right? And so it puts a whole new element on the whole Mr. Old come to pass. And so it's just incredible how when you start reading these stories outside of the church history, how much of this stuff actually comes into, it starts making sense. And you're like, oh, this is what they're talking about with this kind of stuff, right? Because it's all such utter nonsense, right? You have to really disconnect your mind in order to believe in this religion, right? In any religion, really. You have to just disconnect your mind, and just, the sense of reason, right, is, that's where I come from, is reason, right? Let's be reasonable, right? What is the craft, right? What is the head in the hat? What does that mean? Why would anybody do that? Okay. Well, there's a specific reason why that's done. It's Solomonic magic. You have to have a medium, right? Your medium, rather it be your reflection in the water, okay? The stone in a hat is actually a medium, right? And in Solomonic magic, that's actually one of the mediums, is putting a stone in a hat and deciphering what's on that stone, right? So all of this goes back to Freemasonry and the magic of Solomon, right? Who was the first Mason? Okay. So in one of my videos, I did misspeak, and I said that, what did I say? Solomon or David is the son of Solomon or something like that. Okay. Well, that was wrong. Okay. Solomon is the son of David, right? And so, I do misspeak in my videos, okay? And so that's human, I think, right? But apostates, I believe that you're smart enough to know that these videos are a little bit different, right? They're a little on a different level. They're a different plane. We're not talking about your faith crisis on this channel, okay? So we're kind of on a different plane, okay? So when I say something as silly as that David is the son of Solomon, I would hope that you have the wherewithal to realize that that's a misspeak, right? Okay. Solomon is the son of David. Okay. We all know that. I talk about the testaments of Solomon all the time on my channel. So you have to read those in order to know where this stuff is even coming from, right? Because where does Solomonic magic even, or Freemasonry even come from? Right? It's Solomon. That there's no other way to say that. Solomon is the first Mason. Hiram Abif is he's, yeah, you have to read the Testaments of Solomon, man, to understand what Masonry is even about. So you know, Solomon is the first Mason. Hiram Abiff is the first Master Mason. So, you know, the pentagram, right? That's the seal of Solomon, is the pentagram. Why are there no crosses on the Mormon churches? But there's pentagrams all over the older ones. The Salt Lake Temple, there's the Salt Lake Temple. They're all over the place. The Nauvoo one, they're everywhere. There's pentagrams on the windows, and you can Google this stuff and you can see them for yourself, right? And these are the seals of Solomon, right? In the treaties of Solomon, it actually talks about, it gives the dimensions, right? In the Testament of Solomon, it gives the dimensions of the temples. And they're pretty descriptive. And lo and behold, there's the Mormon temple, the first ones, right? They're exactly the same as the temples of Solomon, right? That's what they are. That's what the Mormon temples are, the temples of Solomon. So these are not my words. These are not my opinions, right? These are what the books say, right? It's legit what the books say. So, all right, apostates. So this is a very short video today because this article is in 3 parts and I want to make 3 different videos out of it. And I do want to say that the only way to support the Mormon Atheist is to subscribe to the channel, tell your friend about the channel, watch the videos all the way through, start to finish. These are not monetized. They will never be monetized because the Muse won't allow it. And if you want to know what that is, just look it up, right? And you can find it. So I really recommend reading a lot of these books. H.H. Bancroft, History of Utah, William Dixon. It's called New America. Read that book. There's so many books. This one here is called Tiffany's Monthly. Read Fraser Magazine, where and in all of these books, there's section of these books to where they actually say nobody can describe Joseph Smith. Nobody knows what he looks like. Nobody can give you the particulars of Joseph Smith, right? And these are very prominent people. Eliza Snow, Orson Pratt, Orson Hyde, right? These are people that, you know, Hyde was in the jail when he got shot. So how can that guy not describe Joseph Smith and what he looks like, right? You have to think, right? Think, use your faculties. How can this guy not know what Joseph Smith even looks like when he was in the jail with him, when he got shot? You have to wonder, people, okay? So that's all I'm saying is you have to wonder. You have to read these books and you have to think about this stuff. These are not church sources. So yes, this is not what the church says, because it's not. I don't believe what the church says. Do you understand that? That's not, they lied to me. They're wrong. They're a bunch of scoundrels, all this kind of stuff, right? So why would I believe their writings? Do you understand that? Does that make any sense to a lot of you people? The apostate congregation understand this, okay? So this video is a little bit of an explanation of what the Mormon atheist even is, and maybe you still don't understand what it is, but we want to know. We want to know, where does Mormonism come from? Who created it? Who wrote the Book of Mormon? I do not believe Joseph Smith wrote that book. I personally, that is my opinion. I do not believe Joseph Smith wrote that book. 100%. After reading all of the stuff that I have read, hands down, I do not believe that he wrote that book. He did write the Book of Commandments. That is, I do believe that. But that is what we call today the Doctrine and Covenants. That is not the Book of Mormon, okay? I do have books that say that, actually, if you read those books I just said, H.H. Bancroft and William Dixon, both of them, William Dixon, New America, that book came out in 1866. He went and lived in Salt Lake for a year And he, in his book, says at no point in time does anybody ever produce a Book of Mormon. That's in 1866. There is no Book of Mormon. Okay. In 1889, H.H. Bancroft has a similar story. And H.H. Bancroft lived in Utah for something like 2 or 3 years. He went there and he lived. And that book is intense. That's an intense book, H.H. Bancroft's book. He actually talks about the Book of Mormon being written in the letters of Deseret, in the characters of Deseret. And you can Google that, the alphabet, the Deseret alphabet. That is a legit alphabet, and you can go and you can look it up, and there is literally a Book of Mormon written in the Deseret alphabet. And I have a video on that. There's pictures of it in H.H. Bancroft's book in 1889, but there's still no Book of Mormon, though, okay, that we know today as a Book of Mormon, okay? I do have a Book of Mormon that is from another church. It's called the Church of Christ. And they believe in a Book of Mormon too, but that Book of Mormon is very different than our Book of Mormon. And you can go back into my other videos and you can watch that, where I actually hold them up and I show them. And, here, I can show them to you right now. I'll show them to you right now, apostates. Right here. That's a Book of Mormon by the Church of Christ. This is the Doctrine and Covenants that we call, but it's called the Book of Commandments. Okay, and in this book, there's only 65 commandments. There's 119, I think, in the Book of Mormon that we use today. Okay, and the last one of these commandments is in 1831. The last one in what we call the Book of Mormon, Doctrine and Covenants, is 1978. Okay, so you tell me, apostate congregation, the Book of Mormon. Okay, it's says the Church of Christ on here somewhere. Let me show it to you. Right here. The Church of Christ at Temple Lot. That's where I got this from, in Missouri. The Church of Christ at Temple Lot in Missouri. That's where I got this from. And it's not like the Book of Mormon that the LDS Brighamites use. They claim this is the Joseph Smith original Book of Mormon. And these are the original Doctrine and Covenants, the Book of Commandments. So in William Dixon's book, he talks about this book right here, the Book of Commandments. He legit talks about it in 1866. And these commandments are not the same as the ones that are in, they're similar. I'll say that. They're similar, but there's no polygamy. There is no polygamy in this book whatsoever. And you are free to contact the Church of Christ at Temple Lot, and you can buy these and you can see them for yourself. This one I think is like $6, and this one's like $12 or something like that. They're not expensive. Okay. So there you have it. So I kind of went way off topic of Joel Tiffany's article. I went way off topic today in Joel Tiffany's article because kind of a lot's happened. And I feel like I lost one of my pages too. So I'll get that page on the next one. They were out of order, but I don't know. Anyways, so that's all I got. So thank you, man. I appreciate that. Yeah. So anyways, thank you for all of your support. I do research the hell out of this stuff because I am genuinely fascinated by it. And I really just can't get enough of it. I can't get enough of it. There's times where I have to take breaks because it's so outlandish, some of this stuff, that you have to, like, I have grown up indoctrinated, right? I was born and raised in the church. So in my mind, right, I'm dogmatic in some of these ideas and thoughts. That's my own personal dogmatism, right? And then I read some of these stories and I'm like, that shit is not true. There is no way that's true. But then I'll read 3 other books and they all say the same thing. So now I have to start thinking like, well, wait a minute. How do these people that have nothing to do with each other, none of them have any stake in the game of Mormonism whatsoever, and they all are just, and they're all talking about the same thing. But then you have the church. The church is the odd man out here, right? And so they're all right, I'm reading this thing. So okay, so John D was angel magic. Okay, that's a different thing. John D was the language of the angels, right? And so when he's talking, when he does all of his characters, right, his magic is called Enochian magic. That's very different than Salmonic magic. Okay, when you look at Joseph Smith's Pentacle Jupiter, right, you can Google the Pentacles of Jupiter. There's 7 of them. Okay, when he died, he had the Jupiter talisman in his pocket. That talisman that's in his pocket is the 3rd pentacle. Okay, now if you go on the parchment paper, if you look at the Joseph Smith parchment paper, there's 4 symbols on that paper. Okay, those symbols are those are 4 of the 7, right? And is what those are is, it's called money magic. It's money magic. And in money magic, so this is a very, very like extremely deep topic, right? In this little 30 seconds that I'm talking to you right now, so the scrying, yeah, that's part of Salmonic magic. Yeah, scrying is, yeah. So yeah, but anyways, to finish what I was saying, if you look up the Pentacles of Jupiter, it's money magic, right? It's actually called money magic of Solomon, right? So this is a very deep subject, right? So in a nutshell, there's Kabbalah mixed in with this, all this kind of stuff. And so the color blue, okay? So the color blue is symbolic for if I want you to give me money, I give you something blue. It doesn't matter what it is, okay? It just has to be blue. And I give that to you. And with the intent and the idea of one day, someday, for whatever reasons, you're just going to give me money for no reason at all. You're just going to give me money. Well, what color is the Book of Mormon, and what is the intent of the Book of Mormon? The Book of Mormon is blue, okay? Missionaries go out and they give you this thing for free. Okay, well, what is the entire intent? What is the goal of Mormonism? To get your temple recommends. Okay, you cannot get your temple recommends unless you are a consistent tithe payer, right? So the whole intention of the Book of Mormon is to get you to join the church and be a tithe payer. So with that in mind, and yes, anybody can join the church, anybody, blah, 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 but only members pay tithing, right? And so that tithing is the Book of Mormon, that intent, right? That spell is to give you that book, that blue object, with the intent of you giving money, right, to the church. So with that said, I ask the congregation, apostates, did the spell work? Look at the church today. Look at how many trillions of dollars those people are worth, right? You know, I mean, it's sick. It's sick. So you know, and the Kabbalah, the whole Kabbalah aspect is what I just got done talking about in my little presentation here, with how they go back to Judaism in First Nephi, right in the very first, you know, First Nephi chapter 1, right, verse, like, what is it, like verse 2 or 3, he says, in the learning of the Jews, right, we take the Jewish story, right, and we, you know, my father was, you know, a Jew, we were Jews, you know, what's the whole New Jerusalem, right, the America's the New Jerusalem, right, and you know, it's Judaism is so intertwined in Mormonism, right? Because a lot of these books that I have read, they actually talk about Martinists. I don't even know what a Martinist is. Templars, no, I don't believe they were Templars. They are the Scottish 33rd Reich, or I mean, the 33rd Scottish Rite or the 33rd Scottish Rite Masons is what they were. You can go back and you can look at the Kilwinning Abbey. Google the Kilwinning Abbey. Okay, it was like 1774 or 47, something like that. The Kilwinning Abbey got destroyed. That is the last known place of the Holy Grail. Okay, it was the Kilwinning Abbey. So where did they go? They didn't just disappear, right? Okay, they came to America. That's where they went. And the 33rd Scottish Rites are basically they are the creators of Mormonism, is the 33rd Scottish Rite Masons. And so, yeah, and they actually in let's see, what book is it? Elder David Brainerd and Solomon Southwick. They are, so Elder David Brainerd, he says in his book, I took William Morgan's lost 116 pages and I copied it word for word and added to it where it left off. So when you read William Morgan's book, okay, Light on Masonry, and then you read David Brainerd's book, Illusions of Masonry, and then you read Solomon Southwick, A Solemn Warning Against Masonry, in that progression, in that term. Okay, William Morgan first, David Brainerd second, Solomon Southwick third. You will clearly see what they are talking about is the Church of Christ. Okay, Joseph Smith, he is the original creator of his original church, is the Church of Christ. And so a lot of people say that William Morgan's book was about the handshakes and all this kind of garbage, right? That's not what his book was about. If you actually read that book with an LDS ear, that's the key. You have to read these books with an LDS ear. You will hear names like T.F. Talbot, the Pratts, the Smiths. They actually say Smith from Vermont is the killer of Morgan. Okay, well, we all know who Smith from Vermont is, right? And in the context of these books, they're talking about the Church of Masonry. The 33rd Scottish Rite Order was creating a Church of Masonry facilitated by the Church of Christ, right? That's what William Morgan's book, that's what he was doing, was he was exposing the Church of Masonry. And if you read those books in that sequence, I mean, it 100% lays it out for you. Like it, and all of those names, see, this is the key. You have to listen to it with an LDS ear, because the names, those names, David C. Miller, there's so many names in there that have something to do with the creation of Mormonism in some form or fashion, right? Now you say, okay, well, David C. Miller. Okay, well, David C. Miller was the guy that was going to print Morgan's book. David C. Miller was the guy that was going to print Smith's, or the guy that did print Smith's book. So there's this commonality, there's this correlation between William Morgan and Joseph Smith, right? Their stories are so incredibly similar. I've said this in other podcasts, that they're so similar that if you were to switch the names around, you would not even notice the difference, because they're so extremely similar. They're stories, right? And yeah, so if you listen to it with an LDS ear, read those books with an LDS ear, and you can find these books on archive.org. You can I just had a guy, one of the apostate congregation, sent me an email the other day saying that he bought David Brainerd's book, and he was like really excited to start reading it. And so you can get this stuff. Some of the stuff is out of print, like Solomon Southwick's Warning Against Masonry is out of print. So you have to go to archive.org and listen to that I listened to it on audio. And I listened to that book probably 15 or 20 times just to make sure I was actually hearing what I was hearing, right? And you can actually, it has the book, and it's got the book, right? So you can read along with it and listen to it at the same time. And that's what I did. But I do not think they are Templars. I don't think they're Templars at all. But with that being said, though, if that's the last known place of the Holy Grail, why would the Mormon vault, why would that place have it's something like the world's like second largest security system in the entire world, you know. And then if you get into like the Greek and stuff like that, you would know that the cup you would know what that cup actually is, right? I wouldn't want to drink out of that cup. So if you get into the like ancient Greek and not mythology, okay, I'm not talking mythology, I'm talking Septuagint type stuff, right? You would actually know what that cup is. And that's a little bit more advanced than this podcast, so let's not go there. But I will say that I do believe in the muse. That's all I'll say, is I do believe in the muse. And so but yeah, that's a little more advanced stuff than the purpose of this podcast. Yeah, we're trying to get people to stop believing in Mormonism. Okay, let's just stop it at there. There is much, much more stuff that I get into and talk about, and like I know about and stuff, but that's not what this podcast is about. This is about Mormonism. So we'll just stop right there. And it's all about the muse. That's why I'm not monetized, is because the muse won't allow it. So all right, anyways, like and subscribe to the channel. I really have gone far off topic. You're welcome. You're welcome. Like and subscribe to the channel. Apostate Congregation, this is going to be a 3-part series. I got 2 more coming out, and I promise you the next 2 will be very much different than this. I got way off track on this one. Anyways, like and subscribe. I will never ask you for super chats, money. I will never beg you for money like these other podcasters do. And it's really disgusting and sad, I think, that these guys are all retired, living life luxuriously, and they're begging hardworking folks for money with the idea of, we can't do this unless you pay us. F you, man. This shit's free. It's free. It doesn't cost anything to make a podcast. All right. A little bit of time to read some books, but you're reading books anyway. So F off, man. All right, guys. Thank you. Like and subscribe to the channel, and I look forward to our next video. Thank you.